Thank you, Mana. That was beautiful. Yeah. We're never know to Fatah Fatway, but Yemen Man, Tato Sonina, Sur Suna Fafela, Tetai, Pia de Calicia, Nova Fondo, Pia as Facilitator community, also a warm on their mind. Fayin Tato Fatasi Tato Why? Fai when we're Manama, those is a raw. Masano, after you two more, never know if I am fair to way, Simon Mau Matoaina, to someone Matoruso, yeah, was at a refo, was the Manisi, yeah, Mane Fabere, to do a Tinaya sing. Yeah. So, people have said, man, your families have a lot of deaths. I didn't really think about it. I said, yeah, I guess we have. And man, you're always asked to eulogize at these funerals. I said, I guess, yeah, I have. So how do you give a good eulogy? I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like something you want to be an expert at, right? But I told him, I was like, it's simple. There's three things. The first thing is, it's all right to cry, but it's all right to laugh. Because people mourn in different ways. So if you want to tell a joke here and there, it's perfectly fine. But the second thing is, do not cry when you're speaking into the mic. Because people can't understand you. Oh, I miss my father. Nobody knows what you're saying, right? All your beautiful words just went out the window. So, it's all right to cry. It's all right to laugh. Speak loudly and clearly right into the mic. Second thing is, do not, and I repeat, do not think that you're going to remember every detail in someone's life or all the important milestones, because you're going to forget. You're going to forget someone, and then you're going to, man, if only I did that. That's not going to happen. The last thing is, all you're there to do is to help those who are mourning remember the essence of the person who's passed. They have memories of him or her. They know about it. All you need to do is remind them. And people will always remember the deceased in the best light. They'll always remember their best memory with that person. So I hope I do a good job eulogizing my brother today. Let's begin with his name. Saroa Fiti Valentino Sasso. 4 names, 4 pastors. Each pastor served the Lord for 30 plus years. My parents had me and my brother Al fairly quickly, early on in their marriage. For a time there, my mother had miscarriages for many, many years, and she thought she could not have any more children. So 7 years later, when Roano was born, she thought this was it. This was her last chance. And so she was going to name him after every pastor in our family. My father's a pastor. My father's father is a pastor. My father's adopted father is a pastor. My mother's father is a pastor. Their grandparents are pastors. So we come from a long line. Maybe she was hoping Roano would follow them into the ministry. That didn't happen. Saroa was a missionary in Papua New Guinea. He came to Samoa. He's from the islands of Tuvalu. There is no seminary in Tuvalu, so if you want to be a minister, you go to Malua, which is in Apia. That's where he met my grandma Yanetza. Saroa is technically my father's uncle, but he raised him. I asked my grandpa once where the name Saroa comes from, and he laughed, because his parents were missionaries too, in Papua New Guinea. Saroa is actually the same as Samoa. In the middle of Papua New Guinea is an area that's called Saroa. It's the sacred center of the earth. Saroa. Well, when they migrated to Fiji and on over to the Polynesian Islands, he changed the word to Samoa, the sacred center of the earth. So, if you ever wonder where he got his name from, Saroa is the same as Samoa. Fiti and Saavali served as ministers in Famatomo for 40 years. Valentino Passe was my uncle, and he served as a pastor in Uli for 20 years. And then Sasa is my father's biological father, who served as minister in Afono and in Saipipi Savali for over 35 years. So those are the 4 pastors that Roano's named after. When Roano was born, when my son was born, I named him Saro. And Roano told me one, man, I can't believe you named your son after me. So I didn't want to break his heart, so I let it go. Then we got into a fight one day, and I told him, by the way, my son's not named after you. He's named after our grandpa, who's an angel, and you're a devil. He laughed. Roano was a big kid. I know Derek and some other people have referred to him or other people as a gentle giant. The pediatrician almost called CPS on my parents because on the scale, Roano's 50 pounds when he's 2 years old. I don't think you're supposed to weigh 50 pounds when you're 2 years old. But even though he was a large person, he was led around easily by others, including his sisters, Kay and Savali. So when the sisters would fight, they would each try to get Roano to be on their side to help beat up the other sister. One day, when Roano was 11 years old, I saw him in the bathroom, and Kay was sitting on the sink, and Roano was standing up. I said, "What are you guys doing?" And when he looked at me, I realized Roano had no eyebrows. Kay had talked him into letting her shave his eyebrows and paint them in. But he always obliged his sisters. Whatever they wanted, Roano would do. And if somebody would bother them in school, Roano would be their protector. But it wasn't in his nature to be mean or ugly. So he really had to be angry for you to get him to resort to violence. Tita and I married, and Roano was just 12 years old. And I remember my kids asking me one day, "Dad, why do you work so hard? Why do you always stay up late at night on the computer and you're always out doing this job and that job and you used to work outside at HB and all this?" I didn't tell them this, but I told my kids, a man's father and mother are supposed to take care of their kids. But Roano is actually one of the reasons why I've always worked hard for my family. When Tita and I were first married, I was still going to college. And Tita had to work odd jobs to support us. One time she had 3 jobs. She was a secretary, she was a waitress, and she did something else. So Roano was being cheeky to his grandma Tua in the kitchen. So I walked over and I slapped him. And Roano cried and talked. He was one of those talking, crying people. And he cried for about 30 minutes. He cried, he'd run out of tears, he'd stop crying, he'd start crying again. He just kept talking whatever was on his mind. Well, I went in the room and I came back out and I said, "I'm about to go to class. If I come back and you're still crying, you're really going to get it." And Roano was like, Roano said, "You're not a real man." I said, What did you say?" "You're not a real man. All you do is go to school and write on a piece of paper while your wife goes out and earns the money to take care of you. You're not a real man." I was really laughing on the inside, but I was frowning at him, so I just walked out. But ever since then, I always made sure that I was a real man in Roano's eyes, taking care of business and paying the bills. A few years later, 4 years later, when Roano was 16, he had a habit of hanging out with his friends for days. Whether it's his football friends, Copper Stove, it was the member of his little singing group, Suave, Samoans with a voice. I think it was Bete and Derek and my son Gabe. They would disappear for a long time. He would just go. So one time he missed church. He was gone all week. So when he came home, our older brother Al said, "Hey, go deal with Roano. So I walked into the room I said, I don't think I can take Roano if he gets mad at me. So that was the last time I ever laid hands on Roano. By the time he was 16, he was too big for me. Later he told me, I could have taken both of you if I wanted to. So, Roano, like I said, he grew up by himself because he was the middle child. By the time he was in elementary school, or started kindergarten, Al and I were in high school. We didn't have anything in common with him. We didn't hang out with him, we didn't talk to him, we didn't watch videos with him. So Roano always had to find brothers elsewhere. In Hawaii, he would hang around with the Fa'avi family. He would stay there for weeks. Here, he would go with the Falefia or the Fotu family, and he would just disappear. In the summer, we'd never see Roano. We never got mad at him, because like Derek said, Derek and Roano were kindred spirits. They were like the brothers that were middle child. Their older brothers were best friends. But he always carried that around with him, kind of like a loner, or that middle child syndrome. If you look at the pictures in Roano's program, you will find, I might have to pause here for a second in case I get emotional, that my brother is never in the middle of a picture. Look, I promise you won't find one where he's in the middle. The only picture he's in the middle is him and his two kids, but Vali and Kay and Tita actually cropped that from a bigger picture. He was still on the side. Roano never wanted to be the center of attention. He never wanted to be the main focus. In our family pictures, he's always standing to the side or in the back. Sometimes he'd say it's because he's the tallest, but really, it's just because Roano liked being there, but he just didn't want to draw attention to himself. It was that middle child mentality that he carried around with him. He was a humble soul. Sometimes it looked like he was bragging, but even then he wasn't. When we had Father Velasquez, our older brother Al would help with the traditional stuff, speech giving. I would help with buying things and planning and cooking. Roano would always go with the young men or the kids and help them carry stuff. That was his goal, and he always said that. Don't worry about it, bro. I've got this. I'll be outside with the kids. Whatever you need, we'll go buy it, we'll carry it, we'll do the lifting for you. He was the guy who wanted to lift things. So much so. So back to the fact that we're 7 years apart. In Samoa, before McDonald's, and before they had Carl's Jr. and Minovale and others, there weren't many places to get a good hamburger. So one of the places you could was Mike Bird's restaurant in Fontone. I don't know if some of you know Mikai's restaurant. So I was excited, and we were in Nabuli with our Auntie Trina was excited. We had the same birthday, May 12th. We went and celebrated our birthdays. Trina's my cousin. And my mom and my auntie slowly slipped out from the celebration, went to the hospital, and she gave birth to Roano. So again, normally when a baby's born, the family's there at the hospital awaiting the good news. Not Roano. He was born in a hospital, just by himself. Just my mom by herself with her sister at her side. It's almost as if he didn't want to draw attention to himself, even from the start. When he married Sadie, he didn't tell our family. I think he told 2 people in our family about 30 minutes before he walked into the courthouse. So those were the only people that were able to witness their wedding. He just didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I found out that my brother got married on a cell phone an hour after it happened. But when he did marry Sadie, that's when he found what we call in the Sasa household, Roano's true family. Roano's true family is actually the Histake family. That is his family. He is Joe and Loia's son. I know that sounds kind of weird since he married their daughter, but I think you get what I mean. The reason Roano liked going there is he was made to feel special at the Histake family. At our house, our father's the pastor. We're always busy with church things. He's the middle child. Vali and Kay are girls. They get along. Me and Al are best friends. Roano's not special at our house. He went to the Histake family because they always would listen to his jokes and his philosophies, and he felt good over there. He told me he liked having breakfast with his father-in-law, Luia, because he said, he's so chill. We would have discussions. We would debate things like Derek said. Roano would say, Troy Aikman. And Loia said, what do you mean? Roano would say, Troy Aikman is the last time the Cowboys were relevant in the 90s. And Loia would answer back, Steve Young. Steve Young is the last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl in the 90s. Same as my Redskins. Sadie's brothers were Roano's brothers. And we have a joke at our house. When Roano would take a break, we call them breaks, from church, for months, Sadie would always still come to church. She would bring the kids to Sunday school. She would bring the kids to El Telebo. Sadie would come to our family's Father Mother meetings when Roano wasn't there. Sadie would put in money if Roano didn't put in money. So we have a joke at our house. If Roano and Sadie ever got divorced, Loia and Joe can keep Roano and we'll keep Sadie. Deal. Roano marched to his own beat. By the way, let me address. Some people say I see the name Roano, R-A-N-O, and Roano. He was known as Roano, Roano, Sasa, Sauce, Big Sauce, Ron, Ronald. He had so many nicknames, just pick one. But the reason our family calls him Roano is when he was a kid, Saro is from my dad's side. Valentino is my Auntie Mina's husband on my mom's side. So my mom's family would call him Valentino. My dad's family would call him Saro. And it became confusing, especially for the kid. So we decided to just put the two names together. Ro from Saro and No from Valentino. Ron. So it was either that or Sarino. Sarino didn't sound very good. But that's where Roano got his name, and eventually some people just dropped the O and called him Roano. Roano marched to his own beat. He was a philosopher. When you'd speak to him, sometimes you felt like you were talking to Gandhi or William Shakespeare. He didn't use, when a small word would suffice, he would use a big word. That was just his way. But when he was a kid, it was the opposite. We thought Roano was slow. He was good at math, and that was the only 2 A's he would have on his report card. Math and PE. Everything else was a C. And so my mom was yelling at him one day, Roano, you have smart brothers and sisters. Straight A's or A's and B's, K, Valley. What happened? Why can't you get A's like your siblings? And Roano would cry and say, well, what's wrong with the C, Mom? C is average, right? So I'm an average kid. I'm not a bad kid. I'm not a great kid. I'm an average kid. So our families called him Average Kid for the next 10 years. Hey, average kid, go take the trash out. That's what average kids do.